Hi guys, hope you're well. Mr. Davis here. I just wanted to give you a quick bit of feedback on two or three of the kind of key questions from our assessment on response time last week. So the first one, which admittedly a few of you were able to get, but there was one or two that didn't. And I just want to be crystal clear on this because it underpins everything else that follows. Essentially, it's a definition. Which one of these statements describes response time? So when we're thinking about response time, we also need to think about what that's made up of. So you've also got reaction time, then movement time, and it's the combination of them that cause that is response time. So when you go through these statements, which one of these statements best fits that? You should have answer A, the time taken from the onset of the stimulus to the end of the movement. It's the full sequence of the movement or the event. So it's from to, and they all have that. So whenever you're given a definition or a description here, for any of these three, that's what you've got to be thinking about, the kind of the two parts to it. You've got reaction time here, you've got movement time, and then the full sequence from the time when the stimulus is presented. For instance, the gun goes off at the start of the 100 meters. Here, you process that information. The gun's gone off. I know what I need to do. I need to start moving, and I need to move forward as quick as I can. But before you start the movement, it's from the gun to the point just before you start the movement. That's what reaction time is. Then movement time is when they're actually from the start of the movement all the way through to the end. So the time taken from the start of the movement to the end of the movement, the combination of them, so from the start of the stimulus all the way through to the end of the movement or the event, that is what response time is. So just be really clear that there are three key terms there that you need to be aware of, and response time is the combination of the other two. Okay, then we had this type of question. There was two or three like them in the exam, but this is the kind of the go-to example that tends to pop up when we're looking at this topic, where it's saying that the ball hits the top of the net. It's got a net cord in tennis, and it's saying this causes a delay before the final response can be made. Why does this occur? And there's 4 marks. Okay, so for the first one, you just need to outline what it is. This is called the psychological refractory period. Okay, psychological refractory period. So whenever you get a question asking you about something to do with a net cord or something to do with a delay in processing of information, that is known as the psychological refractory period. You can't write PRP. I've just done it for this presentation here. You need to write the full thing. So what is it? Where we're only able to deal or process one piece of information at a time. Multitasking is not a thing. It doesn't happen. No one can do it, okay? Because you can't process more than one thing at a time. You remember we've got this model. Piece of information 1 is here. That's coming in here. And while that's getting processed, piece of information 2 has to just wait, okay? So there's 2 parts to that. You can only process one piece at a time. Other info must wait. Okay, for previous information to be processed. And the name of that delay is called single channel hypothesis. Okay, that's what the overall process, that's what this is. This is the single channel hypothesis. This is what's used to explain it. So the delay is the psychological refractory period. What is it? You're only able to process one piece of information at a time. Any other information has to wait in line for that piece of information originally to be processed. And the overall concept here is known as the single channel hypothesis. So that's important that we get 4 marks on that sort of question. The other main one was just looking at this last question. So essentially it was a level marked question. So let's go through it. Goalkeepers in hockey. Okay, it's important, need to respond quickly to the actions of the attacking players. What are the factors to analyze? That's going to be one of our command words. Factors which will affect the goalkeeper's response time, and I'll highlight that because it's a second thing there. Strategies that the coach can use to help them respond quicker. 8 marks, and you would have seen that this is a level marked question. So in any level mark question, first part is about knowledge. So what things are you having to pick out from here that you're going to have to give knowledge on? I'm not going to write this out in full, but the comments that you should be looking at to make, you need to say the factors which affect a goalkeeper's response time. What is response time? So you need to define response time. And we've looked at that already in the first question. So response time, the time taken from the onset of the stimulus to the completion of the task, i.e. reaction time plus movement time. And the other things, the factors. You need to say what the factors are. What factors can affect response time? So you're looking at things like the number of choices, the single channel hypothesis, the level of anticipation, the quality of selective attention, the PRP, the psychological refractory period, okay, amongst other things. Those are the kind of the key things that you should be looking at. And then you should also list in strategies. So 3 things: definition of response time, the factors, and the strategies that a coach can use. So in terms of strategies, you've got a number of different things, but for example, you don't need to give the details, you just need to, at this stage, outline what they are. So for example, the training being based on specific stimuli. So if you're training a goalkeeper to focus on particular things, that's going to be useful in terms of response time, because they're able to filter out the less important information and just real kind of drilled in focus. That helps their concentration and then therefore their selective attention. It could also be something like improving their fitness. So if you're able to improve their fitness, that's going to have a beneficial effect on their response time as well. And obviously training to improve their anticipation. So if you start to be able to anticipate what's coming, if you see, for instance, that a player is taking a penalty regularly to one side, and you look at their body shape when they do that, you can start to read that and then actually process it a lot quicker, so you kind of get a head start on it. Don't need to go into the details yet, just need to outline what they are. AO2 is then the application. So you need to basically link those things in to a goalkeeper. So these factors that affect response time and these strategies that affect that can be used to support and improve response time, how can they be applied to a footballer or a goalkeeper? So for instance, just basic details like coach providing lots of options. So it's like an open drill. Coach provides lots of options where the ball might be coming from, different things that the goalkeeper might need to look at, whether the shot's going to go left or right, high or low, what kind of angle it's coming from, people shooting from different places. You just give a few examples, and it's the idea that it's a number of different options that the coach can prepare for. Ultimately, what's that going to mean? It's going to mean that the goalkeeper is having to process all of this information a lot quicker and go through this process of selective attention, where they're filtering this information out and essentially improving their response time as a result. It could be that they're improving their fitness. So for instance, if it is fitness is a slightly different one. How could you improve your fitness? What fitness components are going to be relevant here to response time? Well, it could be plyometric training, or it could be some sort of interval training, which is again to do with speed and power. So both of these are going to help this. Now, that's not necessarily going to improve your reaction time. It might a little bit, but it's more likely to be improving your movement time. Remember, the movement time is a key part of the response, of the overall response time. So if you're able to react quicker, if you're able to move quicker, then that actually is able to limit the overall time that it takes to complete the response. So that's why that's important. And as long as you give a few different examples there, The main bulk of the mark then comes in AO3, where you're then going to discuss the impact of these. So I just mentioned there about AO2 for this fitness element is giving examples of how you could use that training. AO3, you want to be talking about the impact that they have. So going into that detail about how plyometric training would improve power, and how power is going to be relevant to improving movement time, and how the reduction in movement time is going to limit the overall response time. So for example, when they're able to then do that, if they had to jump up for a high ball or a shot coming high up in the corner, the impact of that training is that they're going to be able to respond quicker and maybe then more likely to make the save. So that's going to be that's the outcome, if you like. That's talking about the overall impact. Equally, it could be, if you were looking at these the strategy whereby there's lots of stimulus going on. Ultimately, the impact of that is it's going to improve your. So that one's to do with that. If you're able to improve with all these stimulus going on, improve your selective attention. What's that going to mean? What's going to be the impact of that? Well, by improving your selective attention, what you're able to do is you're able to process multiple pieces of information quicker. And as a result, you're going to be more likely then to make the save. Okay, so you're going to disregard that irrelevant information that's maybe going to slow you down, things like the crowd and the movement of players that aren't immediately affecting play. And you're going to be able to deal with that, process it, filter it out, and focus on the most important things. Okay, and by doing that, you're then more likely to be able to respond quicker and make a save. So you're talking about just highlighting the key information here, applying it to the situation of a goalkeeper, and then here you're talking about the impact and the outcome that that's going to have for a goalkeeper. Okay, hopefully you found that useful. Please make sure that that work was carefully marked with the mark scheme, and then just go through this presentation carefully again, just to make sure that you've done all that correctly. Okay, guys, all the best. Bye-bye.